Hello, everyone. Tonight we are stepping straight into the kind of moment that splits a life into before and after. Picture the soft glow of a honeymoon suite, the scent of roses still lingering from the wedding, the veil slipping from my hair as I slid half laughing under the bed like some silly runaway bride. And yes, you probably won't survive this one. So, before you get too cocky, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you really like what I'm doing here. While you're here, tell me in the comments, where are you watching from and what time is it right now? Now, turn off the lights, maybe turn on the fan for some soothing white noise, and let's get started tonight. I'm Lena, and on the night I thought my life was beginning, it was actually ending quietly, softly, like a candle snuffed out by someone else's breath. I still remember how giddy I felt crawling under that massive oak bed, my ridiculous wedding dress bunching up like a runaway marshmallow. My heels kicked somewhere across the room. I'd planned a cute little prank, Newlywed wife jumps out from under the bed, husband screams, they laugh, they kiss. Something fun, something young, something stupid. My heart was racing. I kept imagining Oliver's face when he walked in, my brand new husband, the man who used to sing horribly off-key whenever he cooked breakfast, the man who used to text me goodnight even when I was lying right beside him. Back then, he was warm, sweet, attentive. Back then, I didn't know that some people love only when it benefits them. The door creaked open, and instead of Oliver's soft footsteps, I heard the sharp clack of heels, sharp, purposeful, entitled. His mother, Marina, swept into the room like she owned it. She always walked that way, like everyone else was just furniture she'd someday replace. She sat on the edge of the bed, right above my face, the frame squeaking under her weight, and I swear I stopped breathing. "Relax," she said into her phone with that cold, polished voice. "The girl is naive, too naive, perfect for what we need." I felt my stomach drop. She continued. "Oliver says her father's some low-earning regional architect. Good, easy to manipulate, and that tiny apartment she lives in a dump. She'll cling to anything we give her." My father, low-earning, a dump. My dad was the lead structural designer at one of the top firms in the state, quiet, humble, the type who drove an old truck because it still works. He was the farthest thing from weak. But Marina, she didn't know that, and she didn't care. That condo she thinks she owns, she continued. Oliver made sure it's in her name. That's the trick the court will think she contributed nothing. And we have every receipt showing he did. 6 months of marriage, then poof, we take it. I could actually feel my pulse pounding in my throat. My wedding dress suddenly felt like a shroud. Then her phone rang again. "Oh, Oliver, yes. Darling, I'm in your room." "No, she's not here. She's probably out admiring her ring." Marina laughed a brittle, cruel sound. "Don't worry, it's done. The bird is in the cage. Just remember no softness. If she cries, ignore it. If she complains, shut it down. She's your wife, not your equal." My breath hitched. Equal. So that's what this marriage was to them: leverage, a strategy, a transaction. She kept talking, pacing the room, opening drawers as if she already owned everything inside. "I've done this before," she bragged. "Your father underestimated me too, and look where all his assets ended up." My blood went cold. What was that supposed to mean? She ended the call and finally left heels echoing sharply down the hallway until silence settled thick around me. For a long moment, I stayed frozen under that bed, not crying, not panicking, just listening to the strange, hollow ringing inside my head. You know how people say your heart breaks like a glass shattering? No, it's quieter than that. It breaks like paper tearing, soft, slow, irreversible. When I finally crawled out, my dress snagged on the frame and tore. the veil ripped, my hair was a mess. But none of that mattered. I wasn't a bride anymore. I wasn't a wife. I was prey. And they thought they'd chosen the perfect victim. Maybe another woman would have run bolted out the door in her wedding dress, mascara streaking in the moonlight. Maybe another woman would have screamed or confronted them right then and there. But me? Something inside me hardened, solidified. If they wanted a docile little trophy bride, they chose the wrong woman. My hands trembled as I pulled out my phone, and thank God, thank every cosmic accident that I had tapped the audio recorder earlier, hoping to catch Oliver's surprised laugh when I jumped out. Instead, I had captured everything, every scheme, every insult, every piece of their plan. But one recording wasn't enough, not for what I was planning. I slipped out in my ruined wedding dress, pulled on jeans and a sweater, and sat at my desk. Oliver wasn't home yet. That gave me time. Time to think. Time to prepare. Time to become someone I didn't even know I could be. And so, on the night that was supposed to be my happiest, I began constructing something else entirely a blueprint, a counterattack, a quiet revolution. And nothing, not betrayal, not heartbreak, not Marina's arrogance, was going to stop me. I didn't sleep that night, not a second. I just sat there in the dim glow of my desk lamp, staring at the wall like it was a chessboard, and I was finally seeing the pieces for what they were. I wasn't some fragile bride who'd crumble the moment the fantasy cracked. I was my father's daughter raised to think, to plan, to prepare quietly long before a storm ever arrived. By the time I heard Oliver's key turn in the lock, I had already mapped out the first phase of my survival. My hands still shook a little. Betrayal has a way of doing that. Like your body is trying to warn you of a danger your mind already knows too well. But my voice was steady. He walked in with a tired smile, tossing his jacket onto the chair like everything was normal, like he wasn't planning to gut my life in 6 months and walk away with everything I owned. "Lena, baby, I was worried," he said, soft and warm, that same tone that once made me melt. Now it made my skin crawl. "Just organizing things," I murmured, arranging the expression on my face like makeup, something gentle, harmless, sweet. Long day. He kissed me on the forehead, and I almost flinched. Almost. But I didn't. Because now I needed him to believe I knew nothing. That I was still the naive girl Marina had misjudged. That I was pliable clay he could shape. I leaned into his chest, hugging him lightly. I wondered if he could hear how my heartbeat wasn't the flutter of a bride, but the slow drum of someone planning a quiet war. "I'm so tired," I whispered. "Let's sleep," he said, smiling. "Tomorrow we can start on the condo paperwork, maybe reorganize some things." There it was, the first gentle push toward control. I played my part perfectly. "Sure," I murmured, "whatever you think is best." He kissed me again, relieved, already assuming I was his. But late that night, while he snored beside me, I stared at the ceiling and thought, tomorrow, I won't be the one who breaks. You will. The next morning, while Oliver showered, I turned on my phone recorder and tucked it behind the sugar jar. As I whisked eggs, I could hear him humming loudly, off-key as always. That used to charm me. Now, it felt like listening to a stranger pretend to be someone he never was. "Smells good," he said when he came out. I smiled, wanted to spoil you a little. He grinned. "Maybe you could add my name to the condo paperwork today. It'll make everything smoother with renovations." There it was, the slip, the greed, dressed in casual suggestion. I kept my tone feather light. "Of course. Later. I'm actually meeting a friend." Immediately, suspicion clouded his eyes. Oliver was always more transparent than he thought. "Which friend?" "Sophie," I said easily, "we haven't caught up in a while." He relaxed barely, but just enough. "Okay, don't be long. My mom is coming for dinner later." My smile didn't budge. Wonderful. Inside, a small, cold spark lit. Perfect. Let them both come. Let them step right into the trap they built. The moment he left, I moved fast. I called my father first. "Dad, remember when you offered to transfer part of your firm's shares?" There was silence, then his slow, heavy sigh. "Lena, what did he do?" My throat tightened. "I'll tell you tomorrow. I need protection, please." "You'll have it," he said. "No questions, just certainty. First thing in the morning." I almost cried, but crying was a luxury. Then I called someone else, my childhood friend, a quiet genius who became the kind of attorney sharks are afraid to swim with. Jules. Hypothetically, if a husband conned his wife into letting him fund a property using her money, then secretly plotted to take it. She cut me off. "Send me everything. I'll be at your place in an hour." And she was. Red-haired, fiery-eyed, wearing a blazer sharp enough to slice through titanium. After I played the recordings, she sat back and whispered, "Oh, they picked the wrong woman." Then she outlined exactly what I needed. Transfer funds to new accounts. Lock every asset, document every suspicious request. Gather more recordings, act sweet, act confused, act harmless. "Let them underestimate you," she said. "It'll make the fallout that much cleaner." And I plan to. I transferred my savings, secured the condo down the street my father kept under my name, made digital copies of every message, every receipt, downloaded a banking ledger that revealed something they desperately hoped I'd never find. Oliver used my trust money to fund the condo. My money, disguised as his contribution. It was almost funny. Almost? By afternoon, all the chess pieces were in place. All I needed were the players. And right on cue, Oliver texted, "Mom's coming early. Be ready and be respectful." Okay, she's sensitive. Sensitive. I had to bite back a laugh so sharp it hurt. I set the table, lit candles, even put on a soft blue dress that made me look delicate, breakable, exactly how they needed me to look. When Marina walked in perfect hair, expensive perfume, that smug glint in her eyes, I smiled warmly. "Welcome," I said sweetly. "I made something special." She glanced at the dishes, her expression tightening, when she noticed I'd served the types of food she once mocked as poor people's meals. "Oh," she said, "how rustic." I lowered my lashes, like I was embarrassed. It's what I grew up with. Oliver smirked, proud of me for being pliant. If he only knew. Because right now, sitting in my pocket was a drive full of recordings, documents, and evidence that could burn his entire world to ash. But this wasn't the night to strike. This was the night to watch them relax, get comfortable, reveal more. Because the more a liar talks, the more rope they hand you. And I intended to let them hand me enough to tie a perfect, elegant bow. If there's one thing I learned during that strange, hollow week of pretending to be a bride, it's that liars love silence. They mistake it for obedience. They think quiet women are pliable women. They think soft voices mean soft spines. And the more silent I stayed, the more Oliver and Marina unspooled themselves like cheap thread. The night of the dinner, the candlelight flickering against the walls. I played the part of the bashful wife so well I could have earned an Oscar. I even leaned my head on Oliver's shoulder while serving the food just to watch Marina's lips tighten into a condescending smile. "Oh, Lena," she said, tasting the broth with exaggerated politeness. "Such humble flavors, very traditional." Not a compliment, not even close. But she thought I didn't know that. I smiled sweetly. It was my mother's recipe. Charming, she replied, sipping her wine. I do hope you'll learn some more refined dishes eventually, to fit into this family. Ah, there it was, the knife wrapped in lace. Oliver cleared his throat the way he always did when he wanted me to behave. Mom has a point, he said lightly. Maybe you could take one of those cooking classes. There's a workshop at the club next month. I set the serving spoon down, carefully, delicately, even though I wanted to break it in half. Sure, I murmured, if you think I need to improve. He patted my hand, pleased. Good girl. Good girl. It took every ounce of self-control not to laugh in his face. Instead, I let my lower lip tremble just slightly enough to make Marina lean back smugly and sip her wine like she was officiating a ceremony of superiority. And all the while, my phone, tucked into the decorative plant near the table, recorded every word. The evening dragged on, Marina nitpicking my decor, Oliver agreeing, the two of them working in perfect, poisonous sync. It would have hurt if I hadn't already amputated my emotions like a surgeon cutting away dead tissue. After dessert, store-bought, but I took the credit just to irritate them. Marina stood and smoothed her blouse. Well, she said, adjusting her earrings, you've done acceptably for your first dinner as a wife. Thank you, I replied, lowering my eyes. I'll do better next time. Her smile faltered, surprised by how quickly I folded, but she had no idea the folding was an illusion, a theatrical optical trick, origami with razor blades hidden in the creases. She kissed Oliver on the cheek. Remember what we discussed. Don't let her get lazy. Of course, he said, beaming. And she left, heels clicking down the hallway like a metronome, counting down to her future collapse. When the door closed, Oliver wrapped his arms around me and sighed dramatically. You did great tonight, he said. See, Mom just has high standards. I didn't answer. I just let myself sag against him like a woman too overwhelmed to speak. He held me tighter. You'll get used to it. In my head, a small to sarcastic voice whispered, oh yes, I'll get very used to it, for exactly as long as I need to. Over the next several days, I perfected the art of being calmly invisible. Oliver began giving me small instructions, what time he preferred dinner, how he wanted the laundry folded, what brand of detergent his family always used. None of it was accidental. It was training, conditioning, a slow erosion he expected me to accept. I accepted it all. With a smile. Every time he snapped, I murmured, you're right. Every time he criticized, I said, I'll try harder. Every time he lectured me, I nodded like I was grateful for his wisdom. And every night I labeled the audio files and backed them up. Meanwhile, Marina texted constantly. How's she adjusting? Don't soften. Remember the timeline. Has she mentioned the condo paperwork? The audacity made me laugh sometimes. Quietly, of course. But the best recording came 3 days in. Oliver invited his friend Harris over for drinks, and they got a little too relaxed with their beers. I stayed in the kitchen, chopping vegetables, pretending not to hear. Bro? Harris said, chuckling, I still can't believe you're actually doing it. Marrying for property. That's wild. Oliver laughed. It's not wild if it works. Mom planned everything. Lena won't suspect a thing. She's simple. Simple. But what if she sues you? Harris asked. Oliver scoffed. For what? Her dad's practically broke. She won't be able to afford a lawyer who knows the difference between a prenup and a panini. I almost sliced my finger off from how hard I clenched the knife. A panini? A panini. That man wasn't just a liar. He was academically controversial. But he wasn't done. And after the divorce, he said casually, I'll still be young. I can remarry properly. Someone from a better circle. My breath hitched. A better circle, meaning anyone but me. Harris shook his head like Oliver was some boyish rogue instead of a full-grown sociopath. You're cold, man, but smart. That condo's gonna be yours. I pressed my palm to the countertop so hard I thought the granite might crack. And then bless the universe, Oliver added. She'll never see it coming. Oh, sweetheart, you have no idea. The next morning, I slipped out under the pretense of buying groceries, but really met Jules at a cafe 2 neighborhoods over. She came with a folder thick enough to be dangerous. You've gathered enough evidence to implode a small city, she said, flipping through the transcripts. Just keep acting sweet. They're not done incriminating themselves. I nodded. They're predictable, almost boring. Jules smirked. Boring villains are my favorite to crush. Her confidence steadied me. Her presence grounded me. And as we mapped out the next steps, I felt something stir in me, a quiet fire, a steel spine, a part of myself that had been dormant, waiting for a reason to wake up. And now I had one. By the time I got home, the sun was setting, and Oliver was lounging on the couch, scrolling through his phone like a man without a care in the world. He looked up. Where were you so long? I kissed his cheek, light as a feather. Sorry, my love. Lost track of time. He smiled, satisfied. Perfect. Let him think I was losing track of everything. Because soon, he was going to lose much, much more. If you've ever played along with someone's fantasy long enough, you start to feel like a ghost in your own home, a gentle shadow, a soft yes. Deer drifting through the halls. That was me for the next several days, quiet, agreeable, unthreatening. A perfect little wife. Oliver adored it, Marina expected it, and I used every second of it. But the thing about playing small is, eventually, the cage gets too tight. And the night everything snapped was almost laughably mundane. It started with a burnt pot roast. Not actually burnt, of course. I cooked it perfectly, but I told Oliver I ruined it. I needed to see how far he'd go now that he believed I had no backbone left. When he walked in from work, loosened his tie, and saw the untouched roast on the counter, he sighed dramatically, like a disappointed teacher. I thought we went over this. He said, timing. Lena, timing. I lowered my gaze and bit the inside of my cheek to keep from smiling. I'm sorry. I'll do better tomorrow. He rubbed his temples. You really need structure. Mom was right. That sentence, Mom was right, was apparently the golden ticket to his sense of superiority. Every time he said it, a little piece of his mask slipped. She suggested, he continued, walking around the kitchen like a supervisor, that maybe I should take a more active role, guide you, because you get overwhelmed easily. Overwhelmed. The audacity almost sent me into a full laugh. But I let my voice stay quiet, trembling even though nothing inside me trembled anymore. What kind of guidance? He reached for my shoulder, squeezing it like he was shaping clay. Just simple things. Lena, schedules, allowances, expectations. You trust me, right? Of course, I whispered. He had no idea my phone hidden behind the utensil holder was recording every syllable. And the condo paperwork, he added lightly, as casually as someone asking for more salt. We should add my name soon. My breath caught. Here it was, the moment he thought he earned. You're my wife. We're a unit. You don't want me to feel left out, do you? Left out of property he planned to steal. No, I murmured, eyes down. I don't. Good girl. There it was again, that phrase, that condescending pat on the head disguised as affection. I nodded, grateful he couldn't hear the thunder inside my skull. Later that night, He fell asleep quickly, he always did after getting everything he wanted emotionally. It relaxed him, settled him, made him soft and foolish. Meanwhile, I got out of bed, padded quietly into the hallway, and sat under the soft glow of the living room lamp. I sent Jules the audio with a single message. Almost time. Prepare phase 2. My hands shook, not from fear, but from adrenaline. I wasn't scared of Oliver anymore. Somewhere along the line, the fear dissolved and turned into something different. Clarity, purpose, precision. I had become someone sharper. The next morning, Marina arrived unannounced as always. She never knocked, simply swept into our home like it had her name engraved on every wall. "I brought muffins," she said, handing me a box that smelled like expensive chocolate from that bakery you couldn't possibly know about. I smiled sweetly. "Thank you, that was thoughtful." Her eyes glittered. "Oliver told me about your little kitchen mistake yesterday, burning the roast. Oh dear." I kept my voice small. "It won't happen again." "Of course it won't." She stepped closer, lowering her voice. A word of advice, Lena. Don't get too comfortable. Marriage is work. And if you're not pulling your weight, someone else always can. The someone else landed like a pebble tossed into a lake, deliberate, testing, probing. I tilted my head. "I'll work harder." "You'll need to," she said confidently. "Oliver deserves excellence. And frankly, you're a project." "A project?" My smile didn't falter. "Thank you for guiding me." "Oh," she breathed, clearly delighted. "You're learning." She had no idea she was teaching me how to dismantle her. When she left, Oliver wrapped his arms around me again. "Mom likes you," he said proudly. "She told me you're sweet, cooperative." I swallowed my laugh. "Really?" "Yeah, she thinks you're getting better, more aligned." Aligned, as if I were a bookshelf he'd straightened. "By the way," he continued, "I was thinking we should spend this weekend sorting our financial documents. Make things easier. You know, big picture stuff." There it was, take everything slowly, soften her, then lock her in legally. I leaned into him. That sounds wise. He kissed my forehead. "See, that's why you're perfect for me." Perfect. Oh, he truly believed it. Later, when his car pulled out of the driveway, I closed the door, leaned my back against it, and let out a breath I didn't realize I was holding. Then I dialed Jules. "We're moving ahead," I said. "By Saturday, he'll think the condo paperwork is on the table." "And Sunday," Jules replied, "we drop everything on him." "No," I said quietly, tracing my finger along the wood grain of the door. "Not drop." She paused. "Then what?" "We bury him." Not physically, not violently, but socially, legally, financially. The kind of burial a man like Oliver would never recover from. A clean, elegant destruction. That night, lying beside him, listening to his steady breathing, I felt a strange peace wash over me. I wasn't afraid. I wasn't angry. I wasn't even sad. I was focused. Sharp. Ready. They had turned me into something they didn't expect a woman who no longer needed softness or permission or validation. A woman who could smile warmly while setting the entire chessboard on fire. There's a special kind of silence that fills a house right before justice arrives. It's not loud, it's not dramatic, it's soft, patient, almost kind. That's the kind of silence that wrapped around me on the morning everything changed. I woke earlier than usual, padding barefoot into the kitchen where the sun hadn't fully opened its eyes yet. The air smelled faintly of last night's chamomile tea. I stood there, palms pressed flat against the cold marble counter, staring at my reflection in the dark window. I didn't look like the woman from that wedding night anymore. She was gone, buried somewhere under the bed she once hid beneath. Now, I looked eerily calm, like someone about to flip a switch. I brewed coffee, humming softly, and by the time Oliver came downstairs, I had the table set like we were hosting a brunch for angels. He kissed my cheek. Wow, someone's productive. Yes, I whispered. I just felt inspired. He smiled proudly, mistaking my serenity for devotion. You're really settling into your role. Funny, he had no idea what role I had chosen. The plan began with one simple sentence. Let's go over the condo paperwork today, I said, pouring him another cup. Oliver's eyes lit up. Seriously? Yes, you're right. Marriage should be a partnership. He leaned back, triumphant in a way that almost made me pity him. Good. I'm glad you see it that way. Oh, I saw everything. Every crack. Every motive. Every lie he'd handcrafted with his mother. And I was about to turn those lies into weapons so sharp they'd sing. At noon, I texted Jules. Phase 3, bring the envelopes. 5 p.m. sharpen. She responded with a single thumbs-up emoji, the kind of emoji that meant I've already bought popcorn. And yes, we needed witnesses. So I told Oliver, let's invite your mother tonight. I want to show her how committed I am. He beamed. She'll be thrilled. Thrilled. The word tasted sweet on my tongue. He didn't know my father would also be there. Or Jules. Or a notary. Or 2 of our closest neighbors who just happened to be presentable, articulate, and extremely comfortable describing events under oath. He definitely didn't know the dining table would hold more folded documents than plates. He was walking blindfolded into a hurricane. By 4 p.m. The house looked like a set for an elegant apology. Candles glowed softly. A homemade dinner simmered on the stove. I wore a soft cream dress with sleeves that brushed my wrists. Something delicate, something deceptively innocent. When the doorbell rang, I heard Oliver greet his mother like he always did, overly loudly. Too proud, too performative. Mom Lena made dinner for you. Marina stepped into the dining room, her smile too polished, her eyes sharp enough to slice stone. What a beautiful setup, she said. You're finally learning, dear. I nodded sweetly. I want us to get along. Oliver clapped his hands once, delighted. See, everything is aligning. Aligning? I almost laughed. He didn't even notice the 3 extra place settings. But Marina did. Her eyes narrowed. Are we expecting company? Yes, I answered gently. A few people who should be here for this conversation. What conversation? Before I could answer, the bell rang again. My father entered first tall, steady, carrying a leather folder. He greeted Marina politely, watching her flinch when he used her name with perfect formality. Then Jules entered, all business, wearing her lawyer smile, the one that meant she smelled blood in the water. 2 neighbors followed, offering polite nods. Lastly, the notary stepped in, adjusting his glasses as he placed his briefcase on the table. Oliver looked around, bewildered. Lena, what's happening? I inhaled slowly. This was the moment the ground shifted. Please, I said gently, let's sit. Everyone took their seats. The air felt thick like velvet drenched in heat. I folded my hands. Oliver. I began softly. You and your mother have had concerns about the condo, about finances, about our marriage. He swallowed. We just want stability. Good, I whispered. Then you'll appreciate what comes next. I turned to Jules. She opened envelope 1. Transcript number 1, Marina's recorded plan to manipulate the marriage and take the condo. Marina stiffened. Oliver stared at the table, jaw rigid. Jules opened envelope 2. Transcript number 2, Oliver discussing the timeline for divorcing me and securing the property. The neighbors exchanged glances. My father's expression never changed. Oliver whispered, "Lena, you misunderstood." "No," I said softly. I heard every word. I slid forward the banking records, the ones showing every transfer from my account to his, every dollar he claimed as his investment. Jules laid down the timeline. The notary confirmed the authenticity. Marina's face lost all color. "Furthermore," I said gently, almost kindly, "I have already transferred the property to a trust under my maiden name, legally separate and untouchable." Marina gasped. "You tricked us." I smiled, small and warm. "No, you underestimated me." Oliver reached for my hand, desperate. "Lena, wait." I pulled back. "Tonight isn't about reconciliation. It's about acknowledgement." "What? What do you want?" he whispered. "Something simple." I pushed forward the final document. A voluntary separation agreement. 0 claims to the condo. 0 claims to my assets. 0 involvement in my future. Sign and walk away clean. His eyes filled with panic. "Mom, do something." Marina looked at him, but for the first time since I met her, she looked beaten. Not angry, not superior. Just small. I can't," she whispered. He stared at her. "You always fix things." "Not this," she said. "Lena has everything." Everything. Justice laced with grace, revenge wrapped in calm. Oliver's hands trembled. "You're ending our marriage." "No," I corrected in a whisper so soft it cut the room in half. "You ended it the day you thought I was disposable. I'm simply documenting your choice." He broke, quietly, softly. Then he signed. When it was over, he stood, looking 10 years older. "I loved you," he said. "No," I replied gently. "You loved control." And with that, he walked out into the night silent, stunned, undone. Marina followed, her heels unsteady, her pride shattered. I sat alone for a moment, hearing only my heartbeat. Jules broke the silence. That, she whispered, was cinematic. My father kissed the top of my head. "Your mother would be proud." For the first time in years, I exhaled without pain. Justice wasn't loud. It wasn't cruel. It wasn't messy. It was clean, deliberate, beautiful. It was the sound of a woman choosing herself. After the dust settled, the house felt impossibly quiet, like a snow globe after you stop shaking it. Nothing falling, nothing cracking, just stillness. A strange kind of stillness. For months, I lived in fight or flight, every nerve wired for survival. And now, suddenly, the war was over. There were no more recordings to gather, no more masks to wear, no more poison sweetness to swallow. I woke the next morning and realized something I hadn't felt in a long time. I was alone and safe. The bed felt larger, the air felt lighter. Even the light coming through the blinds seemed softer, like it finally had permission to touch me. I stretched under the covers, listening to birds outside my window and not the sound of someone else's expectations. And for a moment, just a moment, I let myself smile. But healing is never a straight line, more like an academic paradox I once read about. The closer you get to peace, the more you remember what stole it from you. So, yes. That morning I smiled, and then I cried, quietly, out of relief, out of grief, out of exhaustion. Then I got up, and I started living again. My father insisted I stay with him for a few weeks. He claimed it was a safety precaution, but I knew he just wanted company, and honestly, I didn't protest. He greeted me with that same half-smile he'd worn my entire childhood, the one that said, "I'll carry the weight if yours gets too heavy." "Morning, sunshine," he called from the kitchen as I walked in. I rolled my eyes with a tired laugh. "Dad, it's 6 a..." He sighed dramatically, setting down a plate of pancakes. "But healing women need protein. It's scientifically proven." "Dad, you read that on a cereal box. Still counts." He winked, and for the first time in weeks, I felt my lungs expand all the way. We ate breakfast while he told me stories about his engineering team, half gossip, half technical jargon, like he was trying to remind me that life existed outside heartbreak and betrayal. And I needed that reminder more than I admitted. A few days later, Jules came over with a bottle of wine, 2 mismatched glasses, and a bag of snacks shaped like stars. "Self-care food," she declared, "psychologically healing and sparkly. I think they're just glitter-covered pretzels." Yeah, but it's the metaphor that counts. She kicked off her heels, flopped onto the couch, and studied me with that sharp lawyer gaze of hers. "You look different," she said. "Different how?" "Softer," she said, "but somehow stronger, like a sword wrapped in velvet." I snorted. "Please don't make that my dating profile." She gasped. "Oh, speaking of dating." "No, you didn't even let me finish." "Jules, absolutely not." She sighed dramatically. "Fine, but when the universe drops a man in front of you who looks like he could fix a sink and hold a baby at the same time, I'm saying, I told you so." I tossed a pillow at her. She blocked it effortlessly. We talked late into the night about everything: my future, her cases, the absurdity of life. And for the first time since the chaos began, I didn't feel like a wounded animal. I felt human again. A month after the separation, I finally moved back into my own condo. Mine. The word tasted like honey, my furniture, my space, my future. I painted the living room a shade of warm linen white, hung new curtains, replanted the balcony flowers that died while my heart was breaking. Every small act felt like reclaiming territory inside myself. And then unexpectedly came the message that shifted everything again. It was from a colleague at the design firm I subcontracted for occasionally. "Hey, Lena, heard you're free these days professionally and personally. We have a project. Want to come help out? It's big and messy, but exciting." Messy, but exciting like me, apparently. I accepted. On my first day back, the office felt strangely warm. The halls buzzed with the hum of old computers, printers groaning awake, engineers arguing in friendly tones. It was familiar and foreign all at once. And then I saw him. Ethan. He stood at the conference table reviewing blueprints with sleeves rolled up, hair tied low, glasses slipping down the bridge of his nose as if he hadn't slept in 48 hours. He looked like the human version of a warm fireplace. He glanced up when he heard me. His eyes, hazel with a hint of warmth, widened. "Oh," he said softly, "you must be Lena." I nodded. "And you're..." "Your new partner on this disaster," he said, gesturing toward the mountain of engineering drawings. "Hope you like chaos." I smiled. Chaos and I are old friends. His smile was small, but real. Good. I've been told I need someone smarter than me to keep me from destroying the power grid. "Well," I said lightly, "I can do that, as long as you promise not to blow anything up before lunch." He laughed a soft, raspy sound. Jules's voice echoed in my memory, a man who can fix a sink and hold a baby at the same time. I pushed the thought away. Too soon, too fragile. But as the hours passed, something unexpected happened. Working beside Ethan felt effortless, natural, calm, like breathing clean air after months of holding my breath. He never interrupted, never invalidated, never postured. When he disagreed, he said it gently. When he explained something, he made sure I understood without making me feel small. At one point, I dropped a pen and muttered, "Sorry, my brain's still rebooting after everything." He looked at me with a softness that almost knocked me off balance. "You don't owe me explanations," he said. "We all reboot after life glitches." Life glitches, my heart hummed. Weeks passed. My spirit stitched itself back together one quiet moment at a time. Walking through the city with a cup of coffee, laughing with Jules until my stomach hurt, watching my father argue with the TV, repainting the bedroom, sharing long silences with Ethan while we solved equations. Healing didn't come in one big revelation. It arrived like dawn, soft, slow, patient. One evening, Ethan walked me to my car after work. The wind was cool, carrying the scent of rain. "Lena," he said gently, "can I ask you something?" I nodded. "You seem lighter lately." "Not because of me," he added quickly, "just because of something inside you." I exhaled, feeling the truth settle between us. "I think," I said quietly, "I finally realized I don't need someone to save me. I just need someone who won't hurt me." His eyes softened. "That's beautiful," he whispered. I shrugged lightly. "It's real." He hesitated, then said, "If you ever want someone to stand beside you while you rebuild, I'd like to try." I didn't answer right away. Instead, I stepped closer, not touching, just close enough to feel the warmth between us. "Ethan," I whispered, "I'm not ready for the next chapter." He nodded. "I know, but I think," I added softly, "I'm finally ready to turn the page." His smile reached his eyes this time. And in that tiny and quiet moment, under a flickering streetlight, I felt something I hadn't felt in a long, long time. Hope. Not loud, not dramatic, just the glowing ember inside my chest. A beginning. A good one. I didn't fall for Ethan overnight. I didn't fall at all. Actually, not the way I once did, stumbling blindly into love like a kid running downhill. This time, it felt more like wading in slowly, testing the water with careful toes, finally old enough to know the ocean can both cradle you and drown you. But life has a strange talent for pushing you forward the moment you start to stand still. It started with a family emergency. I had just gotten home from work, hair in a messy bun, heels dangling from my fingers, dreaming of leftover pasta when my phone buzzed. It was my father. But not his usual princess. "Have you eaten voice?" This time, his words were thin, trembling. "Lena, can you come over? Something's wrong with Irene." My heart lurched. I didn't even grab a jacket, I just ran. By the time I got to their house, an ambulance was already parked in front. The bright lights cut through the dusk like blades. Irene sat on the couch, her face pale, holding her chest, her breath shallow. My father hovered beside her, panicking harder than she was. "Dad, what happened?" "She fainted," he choked out. "I tried to wake her, but she couldn't speak. The paramedics think it might be cardiac." Cardiac. That word echoed like a stone thrown into deep water. They carried her out gently, and Dad climbed into the ambulance with her. Before he left, he grabbed my wrist with surprising strength. "Please, stay close. I don't want to lose her." "I'm right here," I said. "Go." When the ambulance pulled away, I followed in my car, my hands trembling on the wheel. Healing, happiness, New beginnings, those things had finally started settling into my life like soft dust. And now, suddenly, everything felt fragile again. At the hospital, time became a shapeless thing. I sat with my father in the waiting room, its dim lights, buzzing vending machine, and stiff vinyl chairs making everything feel surreal. He looked older, smaller, like the years had quietly crept up and rested on his shoulders. "I should have noticed," he whispered. "She'd been tired lately, stressed. I thought it was the new project at work. I didn't want to assume the worst." My father, the man who'd always known every answer, now doubted the ground under his feet. I squeezed his hand. "Dad, you didn't do anything wrong. Irene never slows down. She's stronger than either of us." A nurse passed. Dad lifted his head, staring at her with hope that broke my heart. "Not her, not yet." "Let me call someone," I said gently, "just so we're not alone." Dad nodded without really seeing me. I stepped away and dialed Ethan. He picked up on the first ring. "Lena." His voice alone made my nerves loosen. "Ethan, I'm at St. Clair Hospital. My stepmom, she collapsed. They're running tests. Can you—" "I'm on my way," he said immediately. "Don't move." He appeared 20 minutes later, breathless, hair wind-tousled, still wearing his work boots. When he saw me, he didn't hesitate. He pulled me in, arms warm around my shoulders, steadying me in a way I didn't know I needed. "Hey," he murmured softly, "I'm right here." My father looked up, surprised, and "This is—" "Ethan," he said, offering his hand, "I work with Lena. I'm just here to help." Dad studied him for a moment the way fathers do when they're sizing up someone who might matter. He nodded once. "Thank you for coming." And that was it. Approval granted. Hours passed. Tests, scans, consultations. "At least they're being thorough," Ethan whispered, handing me a cup of vending machine cocoa as if it were ambrosia. My voice wobbled. "What if it's serious?" "Then you'll deal with it. You always do." "But I'm tired," I whispered. He touched my cheek, just once, gentle and reassuring. That's what families are for. It was such a simple sentence, so soft, so casually spoken. But something inside me warmed like a piece of my soul tucked itself into place. Finally, the doctor came out. Family of Irene Hayes. My father and I stood at the same time. "She's stable," the doctor said, and Dad nearly collapsed in relief. It was atrial fibrillation arrhythmia. Scary, but treatable. "We'll keep her overnight, adjust her medication, monitor closely. She should make a full recovery." Dad covered his face with both hands, trembling. I exhaled for what felt like the first time in hours. When the doctor left, I leaned against the wall, legs weak with relief. Ethan rested a hand between my shoulder blades. "You're okay," he murmured. I wasn't yet, but the words wrapped around me like a blanket. Dad insisted on staying overnight with Irene. I insisted he eat something first. Ethan insisted he drive me home afterward because no one should drive shaky, he said, as if that were a medical fact. When he parked in front of my building, he didn't turn off the engine right away. He just looked at me quietly, sincerely. "You know," he said softly, "you don't always have to be the strong one." I let out a shaky laugh. It's a deeply unfortunate habit. "A beautiful one," he corrected, "but exhausting." I bit my lip. "Ethan, I don't know what we are, or what we're becoming, and I'm scared to get it wrong." He leaned back slightly, giving me space instead of leaning in. A small act, but the right one. "Lena," he said gently, "we don't need definitions. We just take the next step, and when you're ready for the next one after that, we'll take it then." He paused. "You set the pace. The pace. For years, men had pushed me faster, harder, further than I was ready for, and now, here was a man offering to slow down, to match me, to wait. I closed my eyes, feeling something warm press into my chest. Hope again, but stronger this time. "Ethan," I whispered, "can I ask you one thing?" "Anything. Don't disappear." He shook his head gently. I'm not the disappearing type. In the soft glow of the streetlights, his smile looked impossibly kind. "I'll see you tomorrow," he asked. "Yes," I said quietly, "tomorrow." He waited until I was safely inside before driving away. And I stood in the hallway of my quiet, peaceful condo, feeling something I hadn't felt in years, not the frantic rush of infatuation, not the shaky thrill of uncertainty, but steadiness, a new kind of beginning, one I didn't have to hide under a bed to discover. Life didn't return to normal after Irene's scare. It settled into something gentler, like the world had been shaken and then quietly rearranged. She recovered well, though now she walked a little slower, rested a little more, and let my father dote on her in ways she once pretended she didn't need. And I found myself changing too. Not dramatically, not all at once, more like one breath at a time, healing in layers, rediscovering parts of myself I'd ignored while surviving. At work, Ethan and I slipped into an easy rhythm, finishing each other's diagrams, catching small errors in each other's calculations, bumping hands now and then in the way that sends a tiny spark up your arm whether you want it to or not. We never labeled anything. We never rushed. But something grew between us anyway, quiet, steady, patient. The kind of thing that doesn't demand attention, but earns it. One Saturday morning, as I was sitting on the floor of my living room surrounded by houseplants I'd forgotten to water, there was a soft knock on the door. When I opened it, Ethan stood there holding a paper bag that smelled like cinnamon and warm apples. "I made muffins," he said. "Well, technically my sister made them, but I supervised." I arched a brow, supervised. I tasted the batter, very important academic contribution. I laughed and stepped aside. "Come in." He wandered to the kitchen, setting the bag down. "I wasn't sure how you were doing. After this last week, I'm okay." And I was. More okay than I'd been in a long time. He looked around my condo, his eyes lingering on the plants, the soft blankets, the half-finished painting Kai had gifted me. "This place feels like you," he said softly. "Warm, lived in, safe. Safe." Such a simple word, yet hearing it nearly unstitched something inside me. We ate muffins at the counter, crumbs everywhere, sunlight spilling through the blinds. Every now and then, he'd glance at me like he was memorizing something, not my face, but the way I existed in the moment. It was terrifying and comforting. A paradox, like most honest things in life. Later that afternoon, Dad invited me over for a casual dinner. Irene insisted she felt great, but still wore the soft slippers I bought her last Christmas, tiny pink clouds on her feet. Ethan offered to drive me, and something about that felt intimate. The kind of intimate that isn't loud or flashy, but steady, like a gentle hand at your back reminding you you're not walking alone. When Dad opened the door and saw Ethan beside me, I swear I saw a tiny flicker of approval pass through his eyes. "Come in," he said gruffly, which was Dad speak, for I like him, but I'll die before saying it. Irene set the table, moving slowly but smiling through it. We ate simple food pasta, roasted vegetables, warm bread, the kind of dinner where everyone leans in, conversations drift naturally, and the world feels smaller in a good way. At one point, Dad poured himself a glass of wine and sighed happily. It's strange. He said, I always thought life settled down after a certain age, but it turns out it just reshapes. I nodded, sometimes in ways we don't expect. Exactly. Pain teaches you. Joy teaches you more. And people? He gestured toward Ethan. People show up when you need them. Ethan paused mid-bite as if the compliment hit him straight in the chest. And in that moment, I realized something. My father saw it before I did, before Ethan did, before the universe even dared to whisper it. He saw the way our paths were quietly bending toward each other. That evening, when Ethan drove me home, the car ride was soft and hushed, city lights flickering past the windows like fireflies. When we parked outside my building, he didn't unlock the doors right away. He just sat there, hands on the wheel, breath steady. Lena, he said softly, turning toward me, I want to ask you something, and you can tell me no. You can tell me not yet. You can tell me you're not ready. My heart thumped once, hard. He swallowed. Would you like to go out with me, not as coworkers, not as two people carrying broken pieces, but as two people trying to build something new? I exhaled slowly, feeling the question wrap around me like a warm blanket and a leap of faith all at once. My old scars whispered, be careful. My new strength whispered, be brave. So I nodded, just a small, quiet nod. Yes, I said, I'd like that. His smile was slow like sunrise. Then we'll start simple, dinner, somewhere with terrible lighting and great dessert. I laughed. That sounds perfect. We sat there a moment longer, breathing the same air, letting the moment sink in. Then he leaned forward, not for a kiss, but to rest his forehead gently against mine. Thank you, he whispered. For what? For letting me try. The following weeks unfolded like the softest turning of pages. Our first date wasn't glamorous. It was a tiny diner with chipped mugs, vinyl booths, and the best blueberry pie I'd ever tasted. Ethan talked about his childhood. I told him things I hadn't said out loud in years. We laughed more than we ate. On our second date, we visited a planetarium and sat in the dark while constellations spun across the ceiling. It's wild, he whispered. All those stars. And yet somehow we found each other on this little rock. Cosmic luck, I murmured. Or cosmic timing. And the third date, well, that one wasn't planned. It was the night Irene had a follow-up appointment. I was anxious, stressed, on edge, and when the results came back clean, I broke down quietly, right there in the parking lot. Ethan didn't tell me to calm down. He didn't tell me to be strong. He just wrapped his arms around me and held me until the shaking stopped. And in that moment, I knew this wasn't a rebound. This wasn't a distraction. This wasn't some fragile illusion. This was real. Slow, steady, earned. The kind of love that waits for you to breathe again. One night, weeks later. Ethan walked me to my door after dinner. The hallway was quiet, the lights dim, the world outside humming softly. Lena, he whispered, brushing a strand of hair behind my ear, I want to kiss you. My breath caught. But only if you want it too. I didn't hesitate. I do. And when he kissed me soft, warm, patient, I felt something settle inside me. Not a spark, not fireworks, something better. A sense of coming home. And for the first time in years, I let myself imagine a future that didn't start with pain. A future where love wasn't a trick or a gamble, but a choice, a gentle, steady choice. And I chose him. Tonight's story began in the quiet shadow of heartbreak. A woman who once hid beneath a bed to escape betrayal found herself years later standing in a very different kind of silence, one shaped not by fear, but by resilience. She rebuilt her life piece by piece, carefully, painfully, beautifully. She rekindled old bonds, created new ritual, and allowed herself slow mornings, soft laughter, and second chances. Her father aged, her stepmother fell ill, family dynamics shifted quietly like the tide, and just when life seemed still again, love appeared not loudly, not urgently, but gently. Ethan, steady, patient, warm, walked into her story with cinnamon muffins and quiet understanding. He didn't try to fill her wounds with promises. He didn't push through her walls. He simply stood beside her until she was ready to open them herself. Through hospital nights, family dinners, and long drives under streetlights, they stitched something new together. A love not built on fantasy or urgency, but on patience, safety, and soft beginnings. And in the end, she learned the truth she'd long forgotten. Healing isn't an event, it's a journey. And sometimes, the people who matter most arrive exactly when your heart whispers, "I'm ready." If you followed her story through every quiet struggle and every slow sunrise, thank you for staying with her. Thank you for staying with me. Now rest your mind, breathe slowly, and let the night wrap around you like a gentle blanket. Good night, truly. If you enjoyed this story, check out more life stories and emotional journeys waiting for you on this channel. Make sure to subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.